Today, I'm making it clear, to protect our democracy, I support changing the Senate rules, whichever way they need to be changed to prevent a minority of senators from blocking action on voting rights. When it comes to protecting majority rule in America, the majority should rule in the United States Senate.
President Biden endorsing getting rid of the filibuster, sort of paraphrasing Malcolm X, by any means necessary. My next guest says, though, it's a wrong move. Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn joins me now. Senator, it was an impassioned speech, certainly, and the audience appreciated it. He wove in the civil rights battle and to January 6th, and then, of course, this being the next major showdown for America. Is that how you see it, the next major inflection, where we should be inflecting on who we are as a people? Is this our test?
Well, it's a false narrative, Charles. And, the president, I'm a little embarrassed for him because he doesn't even have members of his own political party on board in the Senate, much less those who boycotted his appearance in Atlanta, people like Stacey Abrams. And then, this is diametrically opposed to the position that the president took when he was in the Senate, as he was for many, many years, and when the shoe was on the other foot. The truth is, this is not about voting rights. This is about a partisan political power grab, and they're just trying to dress it up and sell it as something else. And I just don't think the American people are buying it.
And again, from 2019 to 2020, Democrats used the filibuster 328 times. They shattered a record. A year and a half later, it's the most insidious device ever made. It's racist in nature, and it must be removed. It's hard to square that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's, the old videotape is not going to go away, but they don't seem to care. They don't seem to care that their position is hypocritical and opportunistic when they happen to be in the majority. Look, the filibuster, which is basically a requirement that legislation be bipartisan because it takes both parties to come together to meet that 60-vote threshold. That's for the good of the country, and it's good public policy. It forces us to do what doesn't come natural, which is to work together, and I think that's what the American people want from us. Some folks
are saying, though, that the narrative that it's this way to protect from the tyranny of a majority is wrong. That's not why it's there. There's some who even continue to question the constitutionality of it. What do you say to those folks?
Well, the argument that a simple majority should be able to pass a law that affects 330 million people is simply inconsistent with our history and the design of our Constitution, which separates powers rather than concentrates them, because we saw that as the protection of our freedoms. But the fact of the matter is, this is a simple expedient. They're willing to say and do anything to get what they want, but thankfully, members of their own party are not on board. They're not going to succeed. This is going to be another example of President Biden and his party overpromising and underdelivering.
When President Biden talked about the not being able to give folks in line water, now we do know that the law says poll workers can give them water, but those kind of things resonate with people out there. It seems mean-spirited. What do you say to folks who say that just doesn't make sense? Why couldn't a family member bring me a sandwich if I'm waiting in line for an hour to vote?
Well, that's no reason to nationalize the elections in a one-size-fits-all. The Democrats are the party of government. They believe government is the answer to all of our problems, which means they want to crowd out the opportunity for different states to maybe experiment with different ways of holding elections and then learn what the best practices are. But what they don't want to tell you is that they want to eliminate voter ID which is also broadly supported by bipartisan majorities, and they want to mandate ballot harvesting, which would allow people to go into nursing homes, political operatives, get people to vote in their nursing home and in vulnerable condition, and then cast their ballot for them. And, you know, there's plenty of opportunity for mischief with ballot harvesting, and the states, I think, are within their rights to ban it.
Sir, I got just 10 seconds, but this narrative now that's being repeated over and over that if we don't vote Democratic in this country in the midterms and next election, the democracy is over.
Well, that's a crazy statement. And, you know, majorities come and majorities go. The midterm election historically for the party in power is not a good one. They're going to lose the House, and I hope and I expect they'll lose the Senate too, and that'll be divided government. Perhaps that would be something the American people would like, is divided government.
I just think we should have greater faith in America. Bottom line, like you said, power shifts, but we are still one united country. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.